So welcome everyone. My name is Antje Fiedler and I'm an associate editor of the Journal of Small Business Management. I have the great pleasure today to talk with Curtis Sproul and Matt Marvel about their research on how dependence on sales to the government affects new venture performance. This research was conducted by them together with David Jiang and Andrew Carnes. Curtis Sproul is an assistant professor of management in the Department of Management at Georgia Southern University, and Matt Marvel is the George A. Ball Distinguished Professor of Entrepreneurship in the Miller College of Business at Ball State University. Their paper, Selling to the Men, How Dependence on Sales to the Government Affects New Venture Performance, has been published August 2022 in the Journal of Small Business Management. So, Curtis and Matt, to start with, can you please tell us where the idea for the paper came from?
Yes, I'd love to. This actually idea goes back quite a while to when I was a PhD student at West Virginia University, and Matt was a faculty member there at the time. I had a seminar in organizational theory, and at the time we had just a paper assignment, as most seminars do, and it came from that seminar. Andrew Carnes, who's one of the co-authors on the paper, was in that seminar with me. We were thinking about resource dependence from our time learning about it in that seminar. And along the same time, I had come across the Kaufman Firm survey, which is the data set we use for a sample to test all our hypotheses. And as we were just thinking about research questions throughout that seminar to do the paper, those two things kind of fell together at the same time. That we had this sample of firms that were new and that were selling to the government. At the same time, we were learning about resource dependence, and it kind of inspired this idea to ask this question of how firms deal with dependence from the government when they are selling to them, and kind of what the outcomes were going to be.
Fascinating. Matt, would you like to add something?
I would just add that I was thrilled that Curtis had this brought this to my door in terms of an idea, but to me, inherently, it was an interesting research question because it involved not only new firms in this pretty exciting data set, but the aspect of selling to the government, which just there isn't a lot of research out there, and folks, this is one of those things where we were going up against or working with a foundational strategy theory that hadn't received much attention in the entrepreneurship space. So I just thought that made it intriguing.
Fantastic. And in terms of your findings, what was most interesting what you found?
So I think there's a couple of things that are very interesting that we found. The biggest would be the curvilinear relationship between sales to the government and performance. As we was testing this, we first tested a linear relationship, found something there, but it seemed kind of odd, and we weren't really sure what exactly was going on. We had the idea, I believe we got the idea actually from some feedback when I presented this in a conference to test the curvilinear relationship. That really helped push the paper forward with the idea that there may be more to this than just is it good or bad, that there could be some nuance to it. And that was one of the main findings, that there is a U-shaped relationship between sales to the governments and performance. I think the other most unique that at least as far as that I'm partial to, is the finding about survival, that while we have this U-shaped relationship with performance, in terms of profitability, the relationship with survival is actually linear, that the more you sell to the government, the more likely you are to survive as a new venture. So we kind of this unique almost dichotomy that, you can if you just sell more and more and more, you will survive, but the profitability really, as you start, is not going to be there. You're going to have to get into the higher percentages of your overall sales to the government, or have something else going on to kind of mitigate that dependence. So really kind of two interesting perspectives there about profitability and survival. I think that comes out of the paper as one of the bigger findings and insights.
Fantastic.
I will just pile on here, and for me the really interesting part of it was the conditional aspect of the moderating relationships where while you're at a disadvantage of selling to the government, you could help overcome these challenges by selling more high-tech type of products. Which I think makes sense because that would be more knowledge intensive and it's more, you've got to work together and it's not a commodity, right? Where you can just switch vendors, so to speak. And so those small businesses that are really in those more knowledge intensive spaces working with the government have a distinct advantage over those perhaps less technologically sophisticated types of products when doing business with the government. So for me, that moderator was really a really appealing part of the story.
That is really fascinating. And I think you partially answered the next question that I would have for you. We often talk about the impact for practitioners and government and what kind of advice we would give them. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, and we talk about this in the discussion of the paper, that if you go back a few decades in the literature, there isn't really discussed this idea of government and their role in entrepreneurship that they've taken. And just from a practical standpoint, these things are going on. There are these government programs out there through the Small Business Administration and others like it that are set-asides for companies. And we haven't really considered, to my knowledge, very much in the literature about companies that could target these things very specifically. Certainly, we are seeing some companies that do that. And going forward, this could be something that firms could look at as an intentional strategy. It's not just, oh, I happen to know that this contract exists, I'm going to try for it, that there are benefits to trying to work with the government as a customer. And we outline some of the ways that they could do that more successfully. So from the practitioner standpoint, to know, hey, this is out there and this is a path that I can take with my product or service, especially if it's a high-tech product, I think is a really good insight for a business owner. And on the policy side, we don't really talk about it much directly, but there are government benefits to this as well. The easier it is for them to procure the goods and services that they need, that's certainly not a bad thing. It should have things go more, be efficient over time. And we kind of showed through some of our, through our analysis and through our theoretical development with stakeholder theory as well, that a cooperative relationship and working together can lead to this being profitable and beneficial for both of the parties, in the long term, not just, hey, I'm trying to make a buck right here or this year or survive, but to have a longer term relationship. I'll leave that to others as far as how exactly you make that happen on the government side of things.
Great. Matt, do you want to add anything?
I don't really think so. I other than the fact that I did think that this paper and this kind of the story that we were able to tell with the data does speak really directly to those thousands of small businesses that are doing business with the government, and helps provide some insights on the types of strategies that are going to be more successful, certainly for in terms of economic outcomes. So I think Curtis summarized it nicely, and I do think this would be something that'd be useful to SBDC advisors and policymakers alike.
Thank you so much both for really sharing these interesting and important insights of that often overlooked aspect for entrepreneurship. I'm sure there will be plenty of future opportunities to further develop ideas around that paper. The full version of that paper is available at the Taylor & Francis website of the Journal of Small Business Management. And I'm sure the viewers want to learn more about your research after listening to our conversation. Thank you again. Do you have any final thoughts you would like to kind of pass on to readers?
We covered a lot of them. Matt, you have any final thoughts?
I would just say that for all those folks in the scholarly community, this was it's really rewarding to see your doctoral student eventually publish a really great paper. And I think that this, Curtis, what was the timeline on this? When do we start this to get just in
I think we
terms of the year?
started this in like 2013 or 14 and worked on it for a little while. I had to set it aside as I was working on my dissertation. And then when I graduated and started here at Georgia Southern, we kind of picked it back up over time. And then, you know, the review process can take a while, but yeah, it was quite a haul, but I'm glad that we stuck with it and we're finally able to get it out there, especially in such a high quality journal. It's really, I think, can tell a lot to the scholarly community and to, you know, for practitioners as well. But yeah, that message to doc students to keep pushing forward is a very good one.
Fantastic. Thank you again for sharing your insights and also taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks.